Okay, good afternoon, everyone. You're welcome to today's event. This is the deep dive series, and today the topic would be becoming a full stack software developer. And we'll have a speaker who will be speaking to us based on this today, who is by name Adefolarin Adeniji. I hope I got that right, sir. So he is a professional developer with over 13 years of experience. Sorry, just a minute. Well, am I still on?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me all right?
Sorry, am I still on?
Yes, you are. Can you hear me, Michael?
Yeah, yes, I can hear you. I can hear you. Sorry, I thought I was disconnected. Okay, so like I was saying, he's a passionate developer with over 13 years of experience in designing and developing secure, robust, and scalable applications. He is an engineer with a great passion for delivering efficient solutions. He has worked in a team, led a team, and worked as a solutions architect. He believes everything has a concept. Master the concept, master the thing. He holds a bachelor's degree in computer engineering from the University of Lagos, Nigeria, and also a master's degree in internet computing and network security from Loughborough University, Loughborough, United Kingdom. He started his programming career reading books on HTML and CSS. He discovered he had a passion to design applications and make them interactive. His desire led him to study for a degree in internet computing and network security in Loughborough, United Kingdom. He worked in the United Kingdom for about 8 years and then relocated back to Nigeria with his family. He joined Wakanao for a year and 3 months, and he has been working as one of the senior consultants with Andela since then. Adefolarin Adeniji is currently the CEO/CTO of Apt Solutions, an ICT company dedicated to improving the services and workflows of small, medium, and large organizations. And there they offer a range of services to numerous clients and pride themselves in realizing effective solutions. So I would like everyone to make welcome Mr. Adefolarin Adeniji. But before you start, can you confirm you can share your screen, sir, please?
All right, just give me a minute. Okay, I might need to sign out and sign back in. So weird reason. Or if you're able to share your screen on my behalf, that'll be nice. Do you have my slide?
Yes, I have the slides.
All right, fantastic. So we'll probably just stick to you sharing then.
Okay, let me just pull it up.
Do you have it now?
Yes, I do.
No. I guess for the sake of time, I can actually just start talking, pending the time you share your screen and show us the slide. Good afternoon, everyone. I think I'll start off by thanking management of Bincom for this opportunity. to speak to you guys on becoming a full stack developer. It's not a road less traveled, let me put it that way, but it does require a bit of work to get from, let's say you have no knowledge of being a developer to being a full stack developer. So I actually wrote an icebreaker down there. I was going to start by saying, if you had to, let's say you were in your sitting room, sitting down. Okay, so I always give this example because I do training myself. I give this example. You're in your sitting room, you're sitting down, and then you hear a knock on the door. What do you do? What are the steps you take to address the person at the door? Can everyone hear me all right?
I can hear you, sir.
Okay, fantastic. So I will take that as everyone. Right. So as I was saying, you are sitting in your sitting room and then you hear a knock on the door. You go there to answer the door and you either deny or allow the person access into the sitting room. Right. The step you first take is, are you sitting down at the time the knock sounded? If you're sitting down, you have to stand up. And then once you stand up, you need to walk to the door. Then you need to unlock the door because chances are your door is locked, and then you need to open the door. These are a series of steps that you need to take as a person to address a knock on your door. Same thing happens in programming or being an engineer. I don't want to just assume everyone here is already versed in the processes that are in software engineering, which is why I gave that example to kind of break down what it would take for you sitting down on the couch to someone knocking on your door and you responding. It's just a series of steps, if else conditions. So yeah, so again, today I'll be giving a talk on becoming a full stack engineer. Next slide, please, Michael. So yeah, I just did a random Google search and I stuck with this particular example that was said. A full stack developer is an engineer who can handle all the work of databases, servers, system engineering, and clients. In fact, full stack refers to the collection of a series of technologies to complete a project. When you declare yourself, or when you profess, or when you say you are a full stack developer, you're basically telling whoever cares to listen that, oh, I can handle the UI, I can handle the front end design, I can handle the middleware, either the API layer or whatever you're using to access the database. I can potentially handle even database design. I can handle talking to clients on your behalf and pulling things out. So as a bit of a summary, what we'll be looking at is, for a full stack developer, like this said, there are a couple of, actually, there are more than a couple of technologies involved that you need to be aware of and be able to play or be able to work with before you can declare yourself as a full stack developer. We'll get to that. We'll look at some of these technologies and I'll particularly relate it to myself, what I do, how I do it. And then one of the things we look at the end of this is, because I work for Andela currently, what Andela considers, there's a framework that Andela uses to say this is a junior developer, you're a junior developer with this number of years of experience, this is our expectation of you. So that'll be the last thing we consider anyway. Okay, can we please move to the next slide, Michael? Now, I put up this calculator for a reason. Again, during my trainings, I would like to say that I'm not so sure how the questions and answers work per session. If you do have questions, you can just pop it in the chats, and then I don't know, I think that's probably enabled for everyone. So I can either answer the question as I move on from one slide to the other, or we just wait to the end, whichever one. I'm happy to take whatever formats you guys are comfortable with. So as I was saying, this is one of the simple web calculator examples that I use when I train people for the first time that have no idea about programming. I look at them, I tell them that this calculator can be broken down to tables, or for the sake of those that might not know anything about software engineering, you could probably see it as rows and columns. You know, the first row, you have the display. I'm ignoring the gigs for calculator, by the way. So for anyone that's following this, I'm ignoring that title. You have the display, and then you have the C, which is the clear button. And the next row, you have the numbers 1, 2, 3, and the slash. Next row, 4, 5, 6 minus 7, 8, 9 plus dot 0 and equal to, and then the multiplication sign. Now, for those that want to go into, okay, let me say this way, engineering is all about processes. No matter what kind of engineering you're going into, it's all about processes. Now, what makes you, or what will make you an efficient engineer? Again, please notice I'm using the broader term engineer, not necessarily saying software engineering. One of the things that will make you a good software engineer is being able to compartmentalize things or put things into smaller modules or into little chunks, and then address that one chunk. And then once you're done, you pack that, and then you move to another chunk, then you move to another chunk, basically like that. So if you're looking like this calculator, you could decide to break it down into 5 different parts, then tackle each part separately, and at the end of the day, you then bring all the parts together to make it work. This is a very good example of, you can see I'm a full stack developer, and I built an online calculator, which every entry that is made into this calculator gets saved into a backend, into a database. So you enter it, you clear it. Yeah, it clears on the screen visually, but it's that entry, that multiplication 2 times 3 gets saved in the database alongside the result of 2 times 3. When you multiply two numbers. And yeah, so next slide, please. I guess now we're going to go into a breakdown of the system. So before I break it down, I don't know how many of you are aware of this. They are kind of, I'll give 2 examples of system. I think that's a better way of putting it. You have a monolith system where everything is all coupled together. The front end is talking to the back end directly and everything works, right? But then you have the microservices approach where you get to break down each system into different modules. Each module is operating on its own, and each of those modules is doing an action, performing an action, and they all come together to play a more global part or play a part in the system. So for that, again, let me try and use the calculator. This is when you look at all the systems, one thing you need to have in mind is that you are decoupling the system. Decoupling means that you've broken down the system into different units, with each unit handling a particular function. Right. So in here, this breakdown, you have the web, you have the APIs, application programming interface, you have the database, then there's a part of IT called DevOps. Sorry, you skipped to the next one, Michael. And then you have the cloud infrastructure. And then what I try to do is put examples of technologies that correspond to these units on this slide. So for web, for instance, now you have the HTML, you have Andela, you have React, you have Vue, you have CSS, and you have JavaScript. So if we were to go back to the calculator, you don't have to go back to Michael. If we were to go back to the calculator, the look and feel of that calculator, how it will interact when you press a button. Do you want, when you press a button, there should be a sound, or there should be a shadow around the button, so it's showing you are pressing the button? Because most people are probably used to that and they might expect that. So those are it's the look and feel of that site alongside the other components to make that view that you're presenting to your users. Then at the end of the day, on form submission, like when you're saying enter, maybe it's at the point of you pressing that enter button, it does a submission to the backend. Now, what the API does is you're basically decoupled the front end, which is the web, from the database. You're not necessarily letting the web talk to the database directly. That's where you're not introducing an API. Now, the API is meant to sit in between them and then say, you know what, you're not allowed to talk directly to the database. Whatever you want to pass to the database, I will stand as a middleman, grab that data, dump it in the database. Whatever the database has to say back to you, I'll pass that information across. It's just like a secretary sitting on the front desk, and whoever comes into a building is not able to access the manager or the staff of an organization directly. And then obviously you have the actual database where data is stored, and you can do some manipulations and then restore that data or save in the different tables. I'll kind of still break down those things a bit more. Okay, there's one. Okay, I didn't miss it. Now there's another part of this whole process called DevOps. DevOps is a combination of development and operation. DevOps came about a while ago when I'll be quite generic in what I'm saying, where people decided that rather than having developers, right, deploy application or talk to operations guys, oh, we need to deploy this application to this server, right? They decided to form a unit that comprised of developers and operations guys. So there'll be a seamless integration between these two. And that's where DevOps came from. So DevOps is, what DevOps does is, okay, let me take a step back. All your HTML code in the web that you write alongside your APIs, right, that you write will be saved on your PC somewhere, right? Now, ideally, you don't want, the general rule is try not to save your code on your local system alone. Have a central repository, more like save it elsewhere in the cloud. I'm trying to explain how Git comes into play here. So Git is a central repository where you can write code, save it, it goes into the cloud. You can switch machines tomorrow, and maybe you go out to a friend's house, you don't take your laptop with you. All you need to do is just connect to Git, pull down your code that you've written, that you checked in, that's saved on the cloud, and you can carry on working from there. You know, one of the advantages of Git is that you do have a distributed team. Maybe five of us are in Lagos, 5 of us are in New York, 5 of us are in San Francisco, 5 of us are in Brazil, wherever. The 15 of us can actually work on a code base, right? And we deliver different parts of that code base, and our work will not clash. There are times that your work will clash, but Git has a way of letting wherever needs to be involved. Okay, whatever you're about to do now is going to clash with Michael's work. You know, you need to pull Michael's work into your work or push your work into Michael's work. Basically, resolve this clash that's potentially going to happen before you push your code in. And then there are different tools that let you take. So let's imagine, I'll give examples of all this, you know, just to make it clearer. Then basically that's DevOps, and then deploy that code somewhere in the cloud. So you're not saying it works on my machine, because as a developer, that's one thing I get a lot. We get a lot. I do a lot. Oh, it works on my machine. It gets to a point in your career that will not be a good enough statement to make anymore. There needs to be a point that there is a different system other than your machine that people can view the code working to verify and test these things. And obviously, then comes Heroku should move on into cloud. Then comes the cloud infrastructure. Again, I'm not just running it locally. I carry my laptop around. Oh, Michael, have a look at this. And then I have to go to Yaba. Oh, look at this. And then I have to go to Surulere. That journey with my laptop is cumbersome. I don't have to do it, right? I can easily just push my code, my deployed code, my compiled code into the cloud somewhere, have a URL I can access it, and then I can show wherever I want to show without the need to open my laptop. So this part, so if you're saying you're a full stack developer, you must be well versed in one or many of all these technologies. Again, there are like 5 different parts right now: web, API, database, DevOps, and then cloud. You must be able to say, okay, I've designed this online calculator, right? I've designed the UI for it. I've written a very good API that the UI talks to, and then my database is solid. Okay, you know what? All this is on Git, is in GitHub rather, sorry, right? And you now have processes that take your code from GitHub and deploy into one of all these cloud infrastructures. So when next I go and see a customer somewhere, oh, I have this solution, or I have a car rental software that you can use to manage your car sales, or I have the software you can use to manage education, or I have a software to do whatever you want to do. You know, you are able to say, right now, go to this URL, and you can see my software there. Now, some of all this DevOps and cloud, those are let me break it down this way. Web, API, and database, you can host those locally, right? And possibly with no cost to you. With any HTML editor, web editor, you can work on HTML. You could even bring in Angular. Let's say you don't even have internet, you can bring Angular into your workspace. You know, have a local copy of Angular and use that. Build out your APIs or build out your database. It might not cost you anything. But by the time you start going into DevOps and cloud, there is a healthy mix of free and paid. But potentially, if you want to be a full stack developer, you want to play with all these technologies in play on this slide right now, you can do it for free. It doesn't have to cost you anything. So if you're thinking, oh my goodness, how will I get money to pay for DevOps or pay for Git or pay for all these things? There are paid versions of these things, but then these tools, these technologies also offer a free tier. Again, I'll use an example to close out this slide. So let's say I build out a car sales management software. That's web. I have an API that the car sales software is talking to fetch cars, fetch customers, look for the relationship between them, give that back to me in JSON formats, right? And then at the end of the day, all that data gets dumped into a SQL Server database, for instance, right? And then all that is then eventually dumped into Git. And then there are processes within GitHub that takes your code from Git and deploys to any cloud infrastructure you have. So that way, at the push of a button, you write your code, you test it locally, it works, you save it, you push it into GitHub. There are processes that automatically kick in. Well, you have to set those processes, not automatically, I believe. You need to set up, you have to perform certain steps to ensure your code will move from GitHub into the corresponding cloud environment that you're using, cloud infrastructure. And there you have it. So one of the things I do with the people I train is API is not involved, obviously, they're just starting. I don't necessarily introduce them to APIs. So we build something on the web alone, have up, right? I set up Heroku. Heroku has webhooks. It has a way of listening on GitHub, listens to GitHub, pulls your code from GitHub, and then deploys into, sorry, I said Heroku. GitHub has a way of, you set up your code, Azure DevOps talks to GitHub, picks up your code and dumps it into Heroku. And there you have it. Everything works seamlessly, and they are able to showcase that skill there and then. Again, this is a lot to take in if you are new to all this, right? But we will be talking about steps you can take to get where you need to be. This is the whole view. This is the whole picture. So if you are thinking full stack developer, these are some of the technologies, if not all the technologies you need to be aware of and you need to know. And ideally, you need to master one of these technologies. For instance, I do HTML, Angular, CSS, JavaScript. For API, I use .NET. For database, I either use SQL Server, MySQL, or MariaDB. I'm recently going to go into DynamoDB. And for DevOps, I do Git, I do Azure DevOps. I'm going to start doing cloud formations now because cloud formation is for AWS, and then I either push into Azure or AWS. And then obviously I have some GoDaddy projects in GoDaddy that are posted on GoDaddy. So again, we'll come back to this slide for now, but can we move to the next slide, please? Okay, so this is just following on what I said. Again, these tools are more for learning. What I do on a daily basis, these are the tools I use. Now, in my 9-to-5 job, which is ordinarily not 9 to 5, actually 3 to 11 p.m. But anyway, for that, I don't use HTML, I don't use CSS, I don't use JavaScript because I'm more of a backend engineer there. I only do backend work. So I basically do from .NET, database, version control, DevOps. I don't even do DevOps and cloud infrastructure. So my work really revolves around .NET, database, and version control. Right now, but as a CEO of my own company and I develop applications, my job involves every single thing in there. The guys I work with, their job mostly involves every single thing besides DevOps. So can we go back to the previous slide, Michael? There's one thing worth pointing out on the previous slide. Now, ideally, when any organization you work for might not follow, they might not have the coupled system working for them. They might have just one system that just has a web and API is joined together that talks to a database. There's no DevOps, but then you manually deploy it to a cloud. Best practice for building applications is what I have broken down in this slide. But to be honest, not every organization you go to has these processes in place. So it's only in your favor if you have knowledge of all this and how to set it up. When you then work for an organization that has no DevOps, for instance, you are able to create a continuous integration, continuous development, deployment pipeline for them and ease that process for them. Okay, so can we jump 2 slides, please? Now, this is a very critical part of our journey. I'll say our journey because again, I'm not there yet. We learn every day, right? One of the things is in software development, you're either a beginner, you probably have a couple of years. Actually, you don't have any years. You're a learner, beginner, or you're an intermediate, which you've probably done it for a couple of years. You know, yeah, I'm not where I was yesterday. You know, but no, I'm moving on. And then you have the advanced, or should I say, experts. And there are certain expectations that companies, organizations, or people would require from you. They will expect, okay, if you're telling me you're a beginner, all right, I'm not going to give you, okay, let me give you a very typical example. The organization I work for right now, they take interns, and at times some of these interns have no knowledge of software engineering, right? So these interns come and they're automatically classed as beginner. The work I will give to an advanced person that's been in software engineering for a long time is going to be different from the task I'll give to an entry-level student. For instance, if you're just coming in for the first time, I might not even introduce you to the full stack. Meaning, I'm not going to expect you to be a full stack engineer the first time you join the organization. I can start you off on UI work. You know, just can you make this font bold? Can you make this font small? As you make your employer aware of your work, then you might then move into maybe some advanced UI, you know, like React, Angular, start doing those. And then you might then, you know, graduate into, okay, I'm now working on APIs. After the APIs, then you're like, okay, you know what? You're good enough to start interacting with the database. Okay, start talking to the database. Now, it's probably at your own discretion to now say, you know what? I've seen how we're doing things in this organization. I believe I can improve the process of writing our code, deploying somewhere, or we're not even deploying anywhere. We're just moving straight from our laptops to our server environment, which is not the best practice. You know what? I want to set up this pipeline for you guys. I want to set up DevOps. I want to make sure that works, you know, and it's automatically deployed from our local to a test environment, and from test environment, it goes off into the live environment. It is always advisable to have a dev server, which is most likely going to be your local machine, a staging server, which is another place where you can interact with the system away from your computer, but that is not what your users are seeing. And then you have a production environment where your users can then say, okay, now we're interacting with this amazing feature that you guys have done as an organization, and you've opened it up for the world to see. Okay. Any questions before I move on to the next one? Because I realized I didn't see any pop-up, so I don't think there are any questions so far. If I move into the next slide, well, not necessarily a slide, but I want us to visit the link at the bottom there, which is the engineering framework that Andela currently uses. And in the absence of any questions, Michael, please, if you don't mind, could you visit that URL, please? So one of the things that becomes apparent in here is that Andela has certain expectations for where you might say you are in your journey. Right? If you're saying I'm a beginner, or I'm intermediate level, or I'm an expert. Now, again, Andela is not necessarily expecting you to be full stack. Andela is basically saying you can either say, oh, I'm front end, or I'm back end, or I'm full stack. And then as you move on your career levels, as you grow in your experience, certain expectations will be demanded of you. Could you scroll down a bit, please? There's a place where we get to sell, mix and match. Yeah. So, yeah, this is what I was explaining. Like if we can all see that technical focus part, there's a front end, there's back end, there's full stack, and then there's mobile. They're not saying you need to know everything, right? But they're also saying that you can easily say you want to focus on one of these. I think it's worth mentioning at this point that Andela is a big organization, right? And they're able to segregate their departments into different ones and say, we only want front-end engineers to do front-end engineering work. We only want back-end engineers to do back-end engineering work. Now, there are times where you will be required to do full stack developer, because let's assume you join a company today and the company only, and you are the only developer in the organization. Who's going to do the UI work? Who's going to do the API work? Yes, you can argue and say, you know what, now I'm just a front-end personnel. I don't do back-end. Well, yes, you could argue that, but then again, remember, you don't get to sell your skill set to your current employer. You don't get to tell them that I can handle whatever you throw my way. Sorry, Michael, are you saying something and I can hear you?
No, don't worry. Carry on, please.
All right. So, yeah. So, could you please click on the associate engineer on the career level? So let's mix and match a couple of things. So I'm saying I'm an associate engineer. I haven't done anything. Then the engineering levels you can be is either engineer 1 or engineer 2. So please, can we click on engineer 1? Okay, and then let's click on full stack, because that's basically what this meeting we're having is about. So now, if you now scroll, so there are like 3 different levels. There's competencies and there's a technical focus. Again, this is expectation, which Andela is not necessarily speaking on behalf of all organizations in the world, but it's a good start. You can come here to this particular page and gauge your skill sets. You gauge yourself, and then be true to yourself and be real with yourself. Don't bother padding yourself and say, yes, I'm that good. Whereas when you interview, you might realize that you're not that good. Now, the domain knowledge is things they're expecting you to know. Okay, a universal tech agnostic competency framework per level. Can you please scroll down? Let's just jump to that domain knowledge. I'm not going to read everything, but I'll read a couple of things. No, if you go up, you've gone past domain knowledge. Yeah. So this is not saying that, I'll just read it. I'll go through some of them. The language. How long have I been on mute? Oh, I haven't. No one missed anything.
No, we didn't.
Okay, cool. So now, for this domain knowledge, what they're expecting is that you're capable of contributing clean code that adheres to best practice and standards at a beginner level in at least one language you guide in. So let's say you decide to do, okay, I just want to do HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. That's like the most basic of it all. In short, every single framework that's out there, React, Vue.js, and everything, ultimately compiles and boils down to these 3 things: HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. No matter the framework Facebook is using, if you go to their page, if you right click on the page and go to source, what you'll see is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Shows general understanding of core CS functions, computer science fundamentals. Data store, you have, okay, at least basic understanding of a relational store and can effectively perform basic actions. DevOps, even though it's written here as DevOps, if I'm not, yeah, so DevOps, this is just all related to using GitHub and Git. How do you relate with Git? Are you able to use a central repository to commit your code in, fetch code? Are you able to merge other people's code into yours? And then architecture and technical design, able to read, comprehend, and request clarification when consuming content. So if again, this is at the beginner level. They are not expecting a lot. They are basically just saying the general expectation is, okay, at least one language, that you are saying you want to be a developer, you must at least know one language, even if it's under guidance. You must be able to say, okay, you've connected to a database and you've written and you pull data from it, you've interacted with that database, and that you use version control to do what you're doing. So Git, for example, you push your code into Git when you're done, you pull from Git, you've worked on a project with your friend and you've worked on similar features before, and then you've learned to merge, you've learned to commit your code, push it in, and then you can at least read API documentation. That's, again, this is bordering on API because you said you're a full stack engineer. So the expectation is you must be able to read API documentation and possibly integrate with those APIs. So if you please scroll down again, Michael. Can you hear me, Michael? Just scroll down.
Sorry, my network dropped off. What did you say, please?
Okay, I said, could you scroll down a bit, please?
Oh, okay. Okay.
Again, performance, security, delivery. Yeah, let's talk a bit about delivery now. Now, one of the things is able to assist more senior engineers with debugging issues. Now, remember when we started this conversation, I said if you were in your sitting room watching football or something, and someone knocks on your door, what do you do? What process kicks in for you to respond to the person at the door, or at least a knock on the door? It could be anybody. It could be your friend. It could be a dispatch rider trying to deliver an item to you. You're sitting down. If you're not sitting down, if you're sitting down, you stand. Once you stand, you face the direction of the door. You walk towards it. You check if the door is locked. If it's locked, you unlock it. All those step by step. Those are those steps you take to open the door are part of the steps you will actually take to debugging an issue you have. So let's say you built a system that, again, let's go back to the calculator. You built out the calculator, you've saved that data to a database, right? And now a user is telling you that, you know what, while using the calculator, it's not saving data to the database. What's going on? We're not sure what's happening. Can you please look into it? Part of what you will have to do as a developer, irrespective of that level or whatever you are in your career, is saying that, okay, at least I know if I'm the steps it takes to open a door. I know the steps it takes to punch numbers into a calculator and have that data saved into a database. I'm going to go through the steps and check the output at every single thing. I'm inputting numbers here. I'm expecting an output. This output now form goes into another system as input. I'm going to check the input of that other system and the output of it. And this is basically saying you're able to work with a senior engineer to debug and find where that thing is broken. Again, as a full stack, again, if you are saying you're a full stack engineer, there are a lot of moving parts. We saw those moving parts. We saw the web, we saw the API, we saw databases, we saw DevOps, and we saw the cloud. There are times that previously in my career that you've written your code, you've tested it, it works fine, right? And you deploy it to a dev environment. Guess what? The QA engineer is going to the dev environment. They go, this thing is still doing what we said it was doing. Whatever fix you've done, we can't see it. What's going on? You now go back to your code, you look at what's on GitHub, you check your code, and you're like, my change, the fix I actually made is in GitHub, is in my code. This one is on my local machine anymore. I've pushed it into GitHub. So between GitHub and dev environment, something has gone wrong. Right? Okay, let me look at the process of packing my code from GitHub and putting it into the dev environment. And then you now spot, that's what's going on. GitHub has not finished deploying my code, or the DevOps pipeline I'm using has not completely deployed my code, or it gave an error and I didn't realize it was an error. You see, and that's how you're able to troubleshoot. Again, that's a very simple example of troubleshooting. It could get pretty complex, but again, you're talking of 5 moving parts at least now. In this example, in this talk we're looking at, there are 5 moving parts, and you need to be able to troubleshoot at every one of those levels. Again, when you're starting off, you're allowed to make mistakes, and the senior engineer that could potentially be working with you. Okay, so a little backstory. When I joined Andela, like 4 years ago, actually, it will be 4 years in January. Over 3 years ago, almost first when I joined Andela. Engineers in Andela were contracted, should I put it that way? Were contracted to work for US-based companies. Now, some of these engineers that work for US-based companies, they don't have any senior engineer on the team. Do you understand? So if you're saying, oh, I'll let the senior engineer handle that, or if you're saying, oh, no, me, I'm just front end, I don't do back end, and your client's business must move. It's very easy for your client to attribute the failure of the system to you, because they're like, oh, Michael has said he's only front end, doesn't do back end. Yes, it's not your fault, but guess what? It's still going to be on your record, it's still going to be on you. So you can't really say, I don't want to do it, especially. So this is what I say to all people that I've spoken to that are just starting their careers. Don't be afraid to get your hands dirty. Don't be too quick to say, I'm not doing this, this is not me. Because whatever knowledge you gain in software development, it's for you, it's for yourself. It's not even for your organization, it is for you. Imagine you gain the skill set in web, you gain skill set in API, gain skill set in database, gain skill set in DevOps, gain skill set in AWS or cloud infrastructure. Then you can call yourself a full stack engineer. And obviously, you're not going to say a full stack, if a front end engineer is charging or the salary for that one is, let's say 5K, for instance, you are not going to collect 5K because you're playing 5 different roles within this full stack role. You will be earning more than that 5,000 naira. Again, I say this, but then you need to, there are different, how do I put it? There are different things that come into play when you're talking to clients or talking to employers on how this is what I bring to the table. I need to pay this amount. Again, I'm pro learn first, earn later, right? That's always been my philosophy. At least I've been doing this for 13 years. And when I started my own career level, I was doing stuff for people for free. And my mom said, "You can't be doing that for me. Why are you doing it for them?" She said some things, Jerry. I'm not going to bother saying it on this call. But more like, you can't just keep giving out free things to people. Guess what? I was learning. I was looking for avenues to learn. And I get easily bored if I'm saying I'm going to read a book on software engineering. I'm reading. I get bored. We'll talk about this later as well. One thing I do is I pick a project to work. And I don't just pick a random project. I at times to go around, look around me and decide, okay, you know what? Someone close to me, they have a store. His mom has a store. And what they do is they sell things. You know what? Why don't I work on maybe an inventory management system for them, for instance? I don't know what to do. I don't even know how to start it. Okay, I went for this talk at Bincom, and what was said in the talk is that you should break this inventory management system down into smaller steps. Okay, you know what? I'll take it from there. Let's talk to websites. I built the websites. API level, okay, I'm not really sure how to handle APIs, but you know what? I'll still go ahead and manage something for the API. Database. Okay, I'm not too sure. You know what? Even ignore API, do web and do database. Okay, this website is talking to this database directly. Okay, that's good enough. Okay, you know what? Okay, I've managed to learn Git small, and I know about GitHub. Okay, I'll put all my code in GitHub so I don't lose that data. Now, I need to host that solution on a different system apart from my PC. Okay, you know what? I need to explore cloud infrastructure to determine what I need to do, Okay, AWS is offering, AWS, GCP, Azure, they are offering free tiers. You can play around with some of the services at no charge. Okay, you know what? I'll learn that again and build a system. It could take you 3 months if you're maybe you're in between breaks or in between jobs. It could take you 6 months. It could take you a year. The most important thing is that there's something I say, consistent little steps is a lot better than no steps at all. Consistent little steps is a lot better than no steps at all. You do that, and then the whole thing starts coming together. Then remember, you're still a beginner. So the expectation of you to debug the system if something goes wrong. Technically, if we're looking at this Andela's framework as it, they are not expecting a lot from you. Aware of coding standard, team support team. Now, I think this is another critical part of it. As you rise in your career, it goes beyond coding. You now have what you call soft skills. It's not just coding anymore. It's not how well you know .NET. It's not how well you know Python. It's not how well you know certain things. If you scroll back to the very top of this page, it's Michael. It's maybe not the very top, but yeah, go up a bit more. Yeah, here. Now, there's something here called career track. You're basically saying, I'm an individual contributor or I'm a software engineering manager. So for this is now saying, again, this is Andela, your work. This is Andela. They've fine-tuned all those things. As an individual contributor, you kind of are solo. You're working for yourself. You're doing your own thing. Not working for yourself. You're working for an organization, but you do your own thing. You deliver, right? I don't necessarily have to communicate to people. I do have to, because that's the nature of the job. You need to communicate, right? But I don't have to. The collaboration I'll do is going to be quite minimal, because my work is maybe I'm working on a new part of the system that no one has done before. I can exist alone, build it out, talk to guys for help once in a while, go back to my own cocoon, continue building and developing the feature that's required for this thing to work, right? Then the other part is you're a software engineering manager. You're not just dealing with whatever comes to your table, but you're dealing with things that come to other people's table. So that's where the soft skills are important. to get to a career, it's not just about your code again, like I said. If you go for certain job interviews, you might be good, right? You might be actually very good. And there's another person that is not as good as you, but the person has excellent people skills. You don't have people skills. Who do you think will be hired for the role? It's a no-brainer. They might take the other guy over you because the guy is actually bringing multiple things besides development aspect of things. He's bringing the soft skills to the table as well. They don't have to start teaching him, and the guy can go manager level. Again, it's dependent on what they require. Okay, so if you please scroll down past the domain experience, delivery, and then see, communication is key. Communication is very key in these things that we're talking about. It is very important that you're able to own your work. You're able to own the work. Again, if you go back to you saying, I'm a front-end developer, please, I don't do back-end stuff. Or I'm back-end, I don't do database. Or I'm database, I don't do DevOps, right? Technically, you're not necessarily owning the process. Because as you rise in your career, if you're saying you want to become a full-stack engineer, one of the expectations of you is that you are able to own the process of building a complete system from start to finish. You can't say you are building a system from start to finish and not talk about web, and not talk about API, and not talk about database, and not talk about DevOps, and not talk about cloud infrastructure. It's not possible, except you are not a full stack developer. But if you are a full stack developer, you need to look for every opportunity to learn these different aspects of the whole machine. You can just scroll down a bit. You might not maybe talk about, because I'm also aware I'm watching the time, strategy, and then it's right here, basically a framework for you to work with. So before we move on, go back to the slides. If you scroll to the very beginning, and then let's change we're not a beginner again. To the top where we go to select what career level we are. Let's go for principal, let's go for senior software engineer, for instance. In the career level, let's click on that. Yeah, every year, all that is good. Then let's scroll down to domain knowledge. So previously, you're expected to know one programming language, right? This is okay. So at the end of the day, some of these things you started with in your career, actually, you're still going to be using them. Can you scroll up a bit? There's a variation I wanted to see above domain knowledge. Yeah, let's click on the technical focus. Or let's go to about this level. I think that gives a general overview of what's expected as a senior software engineer. You're on that level and you're saying you're full stack and you're an individual contributor. If you click on about this level, it's on the same line as competencies. Yeah. And then if you now scroll down, yeah, and 6, and then there. So these are the years of experience, 5 to 10 years. If you scroll down, expert in at least one core language with a strong command of an engineer's area of technical focus. Core language, maybe .NET. But then you must be aware of some other languages. You can't just say you stick to .NET and I'll die there. Because you might get to work for a client, and what the solution they're proposing or the environment they have, .NET doesn't function in this. Would you then say, you know what, I can't take on this job? Yes, you can say that. It's not a bad thing to say, right? But remember, one of the core things as an engineer, you're meant to deliver solutions, irrespective of what environment you find yourself. If the environment doesn't favor you, you are allowed to say, oh, I'm sorry, I only do .NET, for instance. But remember, all those things, they are referrals. When you tell 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 people, I only do .NET. If the 11th person is looking for a software developer to build something for them, and you talk to these 10 people, you'll probably end up telling, you know what, don't even bother asking for Larry, because Larry doesn't do PHP. And you've lost the opportunity to learn. So yeah, can we go back to the slides, please, and then move to the next one? Thank you so much, Michael, for being my hand. And then let's go to the next level, the next slide, rather. Right, this is where if anyone is saying, oh, okay, I'm interested, I've been psyched up, I love all these things I'm hearing, how do I start, where do I start, what do I do? Again, the first thing is you make a decision, right? Then you research technologies. Again, I can share this slide with you if anyone that requires it. Michael and the Bincom devs have it, so that can be shared with whoever needs it, right? You make a decision, this is what you want to do, and you stick to it. Again, consistency and dedication. Then I broke down the five different parts of it: web, API, database, DevOps, and cloud. Look at it, do a bit of research yourself. Okay, HTML, CSS, I can handle that. I don't really have to start learning frameworks just let me even just do the smaller. Research it, then start with a meaningful project. Rather than just saying, I want to do Hello World. Hello World is one of the most common projects in any language. Hello World. Yes, do your Hello World by all means. Don't let me stop you from doing the Hello World. Take it a step beyond Hello World. In my classes, we always go for the calculator, right? But then we always say, after the calculator, the aim of, at the end of the day, we are going to build one generic project that everybody will chip in. You are building one part, you are building one part, you are building one part, because you also need to learn how to work in the team, right? So let's go back to the example I gave. Your friend's mom has a store and you want to build an inventory management software for them. Pick up that project. You have no knowledge how it's going to work. That's fine. But from your research and picking a meaningful project, you start looking at the different moving parts of that. You start realizing that, oh, okay, this is how HTML connects to the API. Oh, okay, this is how the API connects to the database. Oh, fantastic. All this actually goes in the database or in Git. Okay, I think I'm getting somewhere. And break down, goes back, break down your projects into different parts and give a timeline to yourself. Inventory management system, okay, you know what, I'm going to build one in 6 months. I'm lazy like that. Or a year, I'm lazy like that. It's fine. There's HTML, there's a web part, there's the API part, there's the database part, there's the DevOps part, there's the cloud part. That's it. Different parts that you've given yourself. Build one part at a time. Then get your code out for peer review. Don't say you've done it and you're happy with yourself and you keep it on your local machine. Get Michael to look at your code. And maybe your friend's name is not Michael. Get that your friend, or at least you might have at least one other developer friend. Get that guy to look at your code. Get the guy to critique your code. Let him say, okay, Folarin, okay, you've written 5 lines of code to get this done. Okay, no, this is fantastic. But do you know you could actually have written 1 line? Oh, okay, you're learning. You're growing. Continuous learning, that's what I put in there. You're not just, you can't just build something and say, this works for my local machine. That's it. No. As much as you can, get people out there to interact with your products that you've built. Let them give you feedback. Take that feedback, build out other things, right? And then organize talks, chats, lunch and learn. Okay, Michael, I built this inventory management system. I think it's fantastic. Michael and I have been working together for over a couple of 2-3 months. Michael has been able to help me with this code. It's okay, you know what? I think we're at the point that we can get, even if it's 10 users to use it. Go to your friend's mom. Okay, this is it, man. Or this is, or you know what? Get 10 users. Not necessarily your friend's mom. Get like a beta set of users, people that will just test the system out for you. Have them test the system out, and then best practice. Again, best practice is those 5 things I shared with us, breaking down your project into those 5 parts: web, API, database, DevOps, cloud. Can we move to the next slide, please? This is another important thing. It's been said that it takes 10,000 hours to master it. 10,000 hours. 10,000, sorry, I made a mistake. Hours, that should be 10,000 hours, not days. 10,000 hours equals to 13 months, equal to 1 year. Every day, imagine every single day for 1 year, right? Or let's say 1 year, 2 months, or 1 year, 1 month, whatever it is. You're spending 1 hour learning a particular technology. After 1 year, you'll become a master of that because you know the in and out of it. It's not realistic to say you want to do 1 hour every day. There might be days you do 3 hours. There might be 2, 3, 4 days you might not do anything. Then maybe you start on Monday, you do 3 hours on Monday, you might not do anything. Then Friday, you pick it up again and do half an hour. All well and good, like I said, small consistent steps get you closer to your goal. But it is vital you realize that if you're looking at 10 hours at the end of the day, you already have a timeline of what it will take you to get to where you need to be over 1 year. And if you're saying I can only spend 3 hours in a week, all well and good. Again, do your 3 hours in a week, get your number of hours per month, get your number of months number of months to take you, work out how long it will take you to get there again, 1 year or maybe 2 years. Which is why you have to be consistent with it and constantly explore. I for will not settle for less. I always want to beat the previous record I set. So, and then I wrote, don't leave for tomorrow what you can do today. Oh, I'll do this thing tomorrow. You're only pushing you are prolonging your 10,000 hours. Which is why one of the things I said during this slide is you need to make a decision. Talk to yourself. Have a conversation with yourself and say, okay, you know what, Fulani, I want to do this thing. I recently took my AWS certification exam, cloud practitioner. It's the entry level, yes, but I passed it. For almost 2 years, I've been saying I'll take the exam. I've done multiple trainings that are Andela had this collaboration with AWS. I think it's open to the public anyways, but they had this collaboration with AWS where I signed up to be able to take the trainings for this exam. I just never did it. One day I was talking to one of my friends, it's an ex-Andela, and he was like, oh, by the way, he took the AWS Cloud Practitioner exam. He took a practice exam, and the result of the practice exam was he was recommended to take the actual exam that he would pass it. And he took the actual exam and he passed it. And then, so I made a decision, right? I picked a date, Wednesday this week, and I paid for the exam. Monday, I spent 3 hours learning. Tuesday, I spent maybe around 4 or 5 hours learning. Again, I already use AWS by disclaimer. I've been using AWS for like 2 years. So it's not completely all new to me. The exam was an hour and a half, 90 minutes. When I finished all the questions, I still had over 50 minutes to spare. Again, that is what practice does to you. At the back of your mind, you know things. The story I gave was not to say, oh, I know things or I'm very good. No, it's about I've been relating with AWS for a while. Again, that's the practice. That's the practice. When you practice and you're done practicing, you practice more. That is what it takes to master a thing. Can we move to the next slide, please? I'm rounding up. Oh, thank you. So I don't know if anyone has any questions, but from me, that's what it takes to become a full stack engineer. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation, sir. I believe we've learned a lot. There are a couple of questions, but before I start asking, is there anyone who has any question? Does anybody have questions? Okay. I believe I can go ahead and ask.
Okay, go on.
Okay. First of all,
sorry, Benjamin. Okay, he's muted himself. Right.
Okay. The first question is, in some IT fields, they don't care about certifications anymore. They just want to see what you can do practically. So do we have to invest in certifications to land lucrative roles in this field?
The answer is no. Again, decision. So one of the reasons I was actually anti-certifications. I say I was because for many years I decided I don't need a certification to prove I can do this. I've been using Azure DevOps for about 8 years, right? I didn't think I needed a certification to show. And during the interview, because I'm related with the system, I'm able to answer whatever questions I'm asked. But the reasons I chose to go down the certification path is there's a product I want to release into the market, right? And the cloud infrastructure I've chosen to use is AWS. If I'm going to do that, I want to be recognized as an authority in that area, right? Your experience now will not be enough to say this guy is an authority. You need to be able to back it up with certifications. And because I've chosen to go down the route with AWS, I'm an AWS partner right now. I'm an AWS partner. And a couple of incentives I get for taking certification. That was why I chose certification. But the simple answer to what you said is no. That being said, you need to study whatever company you want to work for and check what their requirements are. Some companies still require you to do it, while most of them don't require certifications. Or they will say, we don't require you to have certification now, but you must be willing to take the certification exam.
All right, thank you very much. Another question is, can you break the pathway into stages? Like, how can an average person cover in their first 3 months? What about after 6 months or after 2 years? Can you just help us understand how quickly one can learn?
Like I said, your learning path is your own. It's a decision. It's a covenant with yourself. If you want me to go down that route, so I'm basically saying, Fola, I'm giving you, like, okay, for this exam I took, I decided I was going to learn. I said I was going to study over the weekend. I didn't get around to studying over the weekend because I'm married now with 3 kids, right? So I was busy doing something. I had to see my parents on Sunday, but then I told myself that, you know what, I'm going to commit to this thing. My commitment to the learning path was paid for the exam. You've paid for the exam, now you have no choice but to do the exam. Yes, you can reschedule, they will allow you to do that, but you have to take that exam. So now, if I come back to your question, you might not necessarily have timelines as to how long it will take you to learn certain things, but let's start off with 3 months. 3 months is a good enough time frame, right? Now decide, okay, in 3 months, let's say I break it down. 1 month to learn front end, HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Play around with it, at least be able to build something, interactive websites. It doesn't have to be beautiful. No one is looking at that just yet. Now, my second month, I want to spend it on APIs. I want to learn how to build APIs and interact with it. Now, a good language technology that lets you cut across all these things and you're learning just one thing is Node.js. I actually didn't put it on that slide. Node.js lets you build out your front end. Node.js lets you build out your APIs at the same time. So you can actually say, okay, for 6 to 8 weeks, I'm learning Node.js. The Node.js I'm learning is front end and back end. And there's no how database won't come into play, because the only reason you need an API because you want to talk to a data store somewhere. That's where database comes in. So it's a good enough project, a good enough language to say you want to use to study for 3 months to become a full stack developer is Node.js, for instance. Take your time, give yourself, I break it down to the nitty-gritty of it. Mondays, the nitty-gritty, I mean Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I must spend 2 hours in total on, actually 10 hours weekdays to learn this thing. So that means 2 hours on filling on Monday, I must do this thing. Yes, I might not get some of it, but I'm going to get something. 2 hours every day, weekdays. Weekends, I want to give myself time to relax. 2 hours every day for 1 month, I'm going to focus on this thing. And you will get somewhere. You might not even get where you want to be, but then what you end up saying is, I'm not where I was yesterday. So yeah, the timeline is it's your call, right? But then if you're working for a client, then it's the client's call and not your call anymore. I don't know if that answers the question.
Yes, it does. Thank you. Okay, another one is this. What does an expert in this field look like? Let's say after 2 years or even 5 years. Are there any specific experience you need to see in their portfolio, or is it just skills?
So if you were to ask me, and technically I haven't looked at that Andela framework. If you're telling me you have 5 years experience building node applications, for instance, so let's be quite specific. If you're telling me you have 5 years, let me stick to what I mean. If you're telling me you have built applications for at least 5+ years in .NET language, one of the things I would expect is, okay, I'll say, okay, let me throw a question at you. How would you design a system that will do this? Let me use a direct example. How would you design a system, a school management system, for instance? What are the key things you look out for? Now, because by 5 years of experience, hopefully you've caught on that it's not about coding. That's like the list of the things you can even do. It's about the planning phase. Okay, I'm going to use this language, this technology. Why am I using this technology? Because of this reason. Some technologies are best suited for certain tasks, even though you can use all technologies for all the things. Some are best suited for certain times. So, but if you're saying you have 5 years of experience, these are some of the conversations I'll be expected to have with you. Why did you choose .NET over PHP or over Node.js? Okay, so you built your system. You just built it as one lump sum system. Oh, you've decoupled your system. Can you tell me why you decoupled the system? Again, one of the major reasons for decoupling is because you want to be able to scale. You can decide to scale just your back end and not your front end, or scale your front end and not your back end. Okay, you've scaled. How are you putting your software in the hands of people? Do you get? Are you manually copying your code from your PC to? So these are the conversations I'll be expected to have with people. I'm going to ask, okay, you know what? For this work, what timelines do you think? How long do you think it will take this thing to be delivered? You can't tell me, I don't. You've done this work for 5 years. Give me an idea of how long it will take to deliver this system. 6 months, 1 year, 3 months. That's one of the things I have to contend with because I have a full-time job and my business is the part-time. When I talk to people, they're like, how long will it take you to do this? And I'm like, okay, you know what? I have a team I work with most times. I'm like, it would ideally, if I was working on this full-time, it would take me 6 months or 3 months. But because I'm working on it part-time, it would take almost double the time. And then you also learn to pad. If a task will take 2 months, don't just go and say 2 months. You have to plan for failure or not failure. You need to plan for unexpected things to happen. So you can say 2 months and 2 weeks. I could even deliver the job in 6 weeks, which is less than 2 months. But the most important thing is that this is what it's called setting expectation. So you are setting the right expectation with the clients and with your team, or if you are the only person building a team with your client, that this will take 2 months, 2 weeks to deliver it. And this is the breakdown. These are the timelines or the milestones we'll achieve per week. You should be able to break that task down to days, even narrow it down. But yeah, if you're saying you build something for 5 years, something needs to show for it. So yeah, that will be what I'll be expecting. And that's what technically from what we saw in Andela, those are the things they will be expecting you to do as well. And for most of the time, they ask you certain technical questions as well. Okay, you built this system, fantastic. How do you scale it? Because in all these things I've said, I have not spoken about scaling. You know, they'll narrow down on certain things like scaling. How do you scale this software, for instance? You know, how do you scale it and then still save on cost and still be cost effective at the same time? But yeah.
All right, thank you, sir. We have a question in the chat box from Benjamin Ahonanya. So he's saying, I write codes, push off to GitHub and push off to the cloud. No DevOps involved, as you have mentioned, between Git and the cloud. So his question is, getting into DevOps, would he be writing codes to push from Git to the cloud, or would he be using tools to automate the process?
So one thing for a good developer, a process you've done more than once, a frequent process you do, you want to automate it, right? And that's where, and what best practice is that don't manually move things. Let it move on its own. Because when you're manually moving things, you might not copy one file, or while copying, you mistakenly deleted the file. Even yes, you push it in GitHub, you can copy from GitHub and go and dump on the file somewhere. Automate the process. Now, like I said, these things are not going to cost you money. It will cost your time to learn what to do. For instance, like if this was hands-on class, I would have literally shown you how you can write code, HTML, push it into GitHub, set up Heroku, have Heroku look into GitHub, pick the code and deploy, and then you see the results within Heroku. Right? That's what I would have done for us. But yes, it's important to automate it. Don't manually push things. Anything that involves manual work in this process, try and avoid it as much as you can. Again, sorry. What some larger organizations do is that when you're starting off with your writing, looking at DevOps, you're allowed to manually create these things. By the end of the day, you need to script them. You can't be manually doing things, because let's assume it's a 10-step process and you need to follow from step 1 to step 10. What happens when you give the code to someone else because you're not at work and the person skips steps 9 and it just didn't remember to do it? What happens then? Life server goes down. There's fire on the mountain. Everyone starts running helter skelter. Oh my goodness, how do we resolve this? You want to try and avoid that as much as possible. So have processes in place that pick it, automatically run the steps, and there's no manual input as much as possible from any of your engineers.
All right, thank you. Benjamin, I hope that answers your question. So one more question, sir. Oh, sorry, another question. There is a couple more, but this one is from the example that you gave. You said you start from front end to back end, but can one start from back end?
I always start from back end. There is no, oh, you need to do this before this, before this, before this. That's the whole point of the coupling the system. You can start, you can, okay, you might not be able to do the DevOps part because you need to push things in first and then create a pathway for them to connect and deploy, right? But you can decide to start from database or go start from APIs. But then if you're going to do APIs, there's no how you talk APIs and not talk database because they almost go hand in hand. So yes, build out your database first. That's what I always do. I build out my database. I look at the relationship between the entities. When I say entities, I mean if it's a student inventory management system, you're talking pricing, you're talking a catalog of products, right? Then you're talking maybe your vendors that supply those products. How can we potentially automate them bring in? When I'm low on crayons, ideally it would be nice if my system can flag my vendor to say that Ferrari is low on crayons to go and supply them. So it's on demand rather than let me wait another because it's not yet time for them to bring crayons. So then we won't have crayons for 2 weeks. And that means I'm not going to sell crayons for 2 weeks. Now, if the bulk of the market that I'm selling is crayons, what's going to happen? I lose customers because my customer will source for crayons elsewhere. And then they might now become attached to the other place they've gone to. And we don't want that to happen. So yeah, to answer the question, you can start from anywhere in that module. As long as you've broken it down, you're good to go.
All right, thank you. Another question is this: for some people in the tech community with some years of experience in the field, they are wondering about career progression. So what would you regard as the top of this, like the apex of this career path? Can they become, say, CTOs, for example, as chief technology officers?
So the career path you eventually landing will most likely depend on your technical skills and your people skills. Like I said, you might be an individual contributor, right? And you're playing the game and you're good on that side. Nobody will disturb. But when you want to start going into people management, it goes beyond technical skills. So as you're building your technical skills, you need to build your people skills if you don't naturally have it. Some people don't. It's not a bad thing. But if you want to progress into a CTO, for instance, then you need to do this. Like when I was working for Wakana, my head of software, then he's now the CTO of Wakana today. And he also started from building things, right? Doing full stack. Then he left full stack to become more specialized backend, right? He doesn't even do DevOps. He didn't do DevOps when I was in Wakana. He didn't do DevOps. I do DevOps. I have a friend, he does .NET, he does Node as well, and he wanted to apply to get into Andela. But unfortunately, Andela is big on DevOps. At least you must have used some of these technologies, maybe not the full pipeline to automatically deploy. Like we saw as a beginner in your career, you need to be able to use Git and merge code. Now, if you've had 2 years experience, they will expect you to at least have used Git to a more advanced level than the normal person would. So you can see you can't leave out some of these things. You need to have the full package. Again, well, this is Andela we're talking about. Another organization just might not mind. They don't need you to do DevOps. That you even know web and API is good enough for us. Just come and join us. Let's build and let's learn together. But yeah, for career progression in anything, you need to show you're reliable. You need to show I'm willing to learn. I'm flexible. I won't just say I know .NET, I'm going to stick to .NET. No, you must show you are willing to learn other technologies to deliver the solution that works for these guys. And then people skills. And then yes, one of the picks is either you end on CTO, or if your people skills are that good or you have other qualifications, then you probably could go on to the CIO. For global organizations, they have like CIOs that sits over the whole chief information officer. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. Speaking about this apex of the career, like what are some of the key stages before getting to that point?
I don't know all the stages myself. So this is part of the research process. But yes, so if you want, okay, so ideally what would happen is you start software developer, doing your own thing solo. By the time you bring Michael in, Michael, you do some collaborations, you build something, then you form the team. Then from that team, maybe you now work for an organization, you build your career so that they go, okay, you know what? Michael is reliable. Let's lead the team. We've seen, you understand these key parts. You're able to break down systems. You know how to handle this part. You know what, Michael, come and lead this team. From team lead, they're like, okay, you know what, Michael is actually more responsible for a few more people under him. He's taking ownership. He's showing I'm dependable, I can be relied on. And he's not just doing what we've asked him to do. He's going above and beyond. You know what? Become the manager of our software engineering department. So what happened with the CTO in Wakana, or my head of engineering, who was head of engineering, and then the CTO left. It was only normal for them to just leave him below. Why? Because he's demonstrated capability. I can handle the team, I can manage the team, and I'm able to set direction for the team. He went into the CTO level straight. For other organizations, it might not be straight from head of software into CTO, and it just might be. Again, it's dependent on the environment or the clients you get to eventually work for. But yes, you could say so team lead, that's lead developer, manager, maybe engineering manager. You're probably then managing a couple of other things beside the 6 people you're managing, right? And then you probably then will go into CTO. Or some would have levels. Or maybe after engineering manager, then maybe you're not demonstrating more skills in architecture. And they're like, well, you know what, Michael has to become a solutions architect. See, you've gone beyond, you're not like an actual architect. Like, if you want to build a house, you go and meet an architect to draw a blueprint of what the building will look like, how many doors, how many windows it will have. You are able to break down solutions at that level and then implement further that, Michael, you can't just you have to become a solutions architect. And then maybe from solutions architect, become chief solutions architect, and then you've entered C-level management already. C-level management are those guys like Badu is a C-level manager. You now start getting into those things. But again, ownership at every stage is critical. You need to show I can handle whatever workload. I can handle my workload and I can handle other people's workload. Not doing their work for them, but I can handle whatever issues they have and I can help them resolve the issue. So one of the key things is that collaboration is key and they'll be willing to help out. When you agree your career, these are the things that will determine how fast and how high you rise.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right.
So another question is this: are remote jobs typical, or are they mostly on-site roles? So do these roles give job sponsorship for, let's say, the UK, for example?
Again, every organization different. Some will be like, okay, for some remote roles, you're allowed to work remotely, but you have to UK based. UK based because they want you able to call a meeting and then turn up in the office maybe once in a month. And they won't want to rely on you coming all the way from Nigeria, packing back, then they don't give you visa, for instance. And how will you attend meeting? So let's ensure you can attend the meeting by you being in the UK. Now, if you cannot attend the meeting for any reason, maybe there was a heavy snowstorm, no movements, that's understandable. At least that was out of your power. But we know we've given you, we brought you in. And some will go, we don't like Andela, and I've been working at home for over 3 years. Close to 5, I think it was my first 3 to 6 months. So my first month, I went to the office every day. Second month, I will show on Monday and Friday, Monday and Tuesday. Third month, I was going once a week. Fourth month, I was working from home. I actually gave a talk on remote work because Andela did it. We had a discussion about remote work and I was invited to speak in that event as well. How do you do it? How do you manage it? Now, if you're talking remote work, then you must be matured enough, not in terms of age, in your experience, to be able to know that this thing needs to be done and needs to be done now, and I'm going to do this. Then this is where you're talking about the trust. You need to build trust with your team. Your team, like my team, are based in the US. I've been working for those guys for 2 years under Andela, right? If they are not there, they know the work to get done. Folarin will get the work done. If they bust Folarin on Slack, Folarin will respond within a time frame. These are other skills besides just your technical expertise. They need to know if I give a task to Folarin, Folarin can deliver on this task. That's your technical expertise. And then they need to know your availability. So there are a lot of things at play, but then different organizations implement it in different ways. So there's no one size fits all that everybody does remote or they don't do remote. No, it's mix and match.
Okay, thank you. Let's talk a bit about figures. So what's the typical entry level salary in the field, like in this tech field in the UK? And what's the highest salary range you are seeing in this field?
It could range. So I won't give figures, right? But this example is, let's say you finish school, you're here in Nigeria, you join a UK company, they say, okay, you know what? Michael, we like you, come and join us, 30K per year. Oh, you're lucky, you're happy, 30K per year, wow, fantastic to join them. And that person finishes school. Sky calls him and say, come and join. They put him on 80K per year. The strength of the organization almost determines the strength of what you get in terms of compensation. So if you are joining a not so big organization, and at times you might join a not so big organization, but because they want to retain your talent, the salary is higher. So in this world of IT we're in, there are a lot of moving, there are a lot of factors, there are a lot of clogs in this whole machine we're calling software engineering. And it might work in your favor, it might not necessarily work in your favor, but you don't necessarily have control over the whole thing. One thing that we're doing before in the UK is for you to get sponsorship. The employer must be able to say, you know what, I want to sponsor Michael. I want him to come to the UK and work for us in my organization. But what you're saying is that you're saying, I want Michael to come in as a software engineer. UKBA will say software engineers must at least be paid 30K per annum. They set the standard for the salary you're going to get. So if they say you must be at least be paid 50K per annum, then the company has to be willing to pay 50K per annum. But now I think the price has kind of dropped a bit because maybe they realize that maybe everybody can pay 50K per annum. I think the compensation has dropped a bit for them to be able to say, I want to bring someone from another country. But then it's different. It's completely different.
Okay. Thank you. Let's talk a bit about you, sir. Could you share about your own journey? Like, how long did it take you to get to the top of your career now? Did you start out as a tester or as a developer?
So I started as a developer. This was in 2004. I'm not that long. Was it 2004? That is so weird. End of 2004, 2005. I started doing small coding, right? And I was actually doing VBA, Visual Basic Application. Microsoft Excel has a part some people don't know. It's called VBA, Visual Basic Application, where you can actually write code. So my final year project in school then, I was building it in VBA, Visual Basic Application. I was using Microsoft Access as a database. So not anything so fancy like we have nowadays, I think, and that's how I was going to do it. I was writing to the data, reading from it. 2 weeks before my exam, my defense, my project crashed. My laptop crashed. I wasn't using Git. Git what? It was all local. I lost all my data. I had a friend that then introduced me to VB, Visual Basic, right? And then, so I learned VB in 2 weeks to deliver my project. But remember, VBA was not too different from VB. Visual Basic Application was not too different from VB. So I was able to learn that technology and then deliver my project in 2 weeks. From VB, I moved to VB.net, right? And then I did VB.net for a while. I was actually loving VB.net. I was doing it. And then I got introduced to PHP. So I was doing VB.net and PHP alongside, right? Then I worked for an organization. They brought in a lead developer, and the developer decided a project we were going to do was going to be in C#. I said, I don't want C#. Again, that's why I said you have to be flexible as an engineer. I don't want C#. You hired me to do VB work. I cannot be doing C# work. Fast forward 8 years from now, I'll be using C# for 8 years. I've actually dropped the other ones. Now, in the course of my journey, so when I started, I picked up VB.net, PHP, PHP, object-oriented PHP. I picked up iOS, the first company I worked for in the US, in the UK. I picked up iOS, so I built iOS applications. Then I moved to VB.net again. I was building desktop applications. Then I moved back to PHP. Then I moved to VB.net. Then I moved to C#. Then I dabbled into Node. I built some applications in Node. I rebuilt it in .NET. I built it in Node. I built it in .NET. I'm on .NET currently. .NET Core to be precise. So that's my journey has been ups and downs, but here we are. But yeah, so it's taken me well over 13 years to get where I am today. And that's why I said I am a strong believer. You need to learn before you earn. So those times, my mom was telling me that why you're not getting paid, why will you do work and you'll not be paid? What kind of life is that? I said, there are dues you need to pay. Once you pay your dues, right, you will reap the reward at a later date. So yeah, that's my
Thank you for that answer. So looking back at your journey right now, are there some shortcuts that you can recommend to some of us who are still coming up, specifically software development journey?
I think all I can say, well, maybe not so much shortcut is what best practice, because you don't know. Oh yeah, so one thing. So my journey, right? So all through the lab, my friends will go clubbing, right? They'll go to club, they will play. Me, I'll sit in my house, I'll carry computer, I'll be typing HTML to write HTML, I'll be doing PHP, right? I was building a portfolio of projects nobody knew about. When I finished my master's degree and I went to work for Lancaster University, it was those same projects I built up. I showed to them again the job. Now, what if I didn't have a portfolio of projects? What if? That's a what if. That's probably something that we will never know what would have happened. In hindsight, I would have said, build out a portfolio, interact with people as much as possible, let people review your code, put yourself out there, don't stay in your code, don't stay in your shop, put yourself out there, let people have a look at your code, let people play with your solutions, right? And then it can only get better, and then you have a better experience because you've said that, oh, I built a system, 5 people used it, I got feedback from that, I fed that feedback back into the development of the software, and I made it better. So at my level now, if I was looking for a job, one of the key things they might be expecting me to say is, oh, I improved the production of XYZ by 50% because of my code. That happened for the organization. Yeah, it becomes matrix. It's not just I built this code to do this. It becomes I built this thing and how it affected the company that I work for was it helped them move their business from A to B. It moved them away from where they were to where they are now. Those are the kind of things you want to be saying rather than just say I wrote code and my code it adds and subtracts and does minus and plus. Oh, I helped a business move from a paper management system to an inventory management system where they discovered that they were able to cut the time it takes to make requests to vendors before the vendor delivers. Because remember the system I spoke about, we were able to check the inventory level of stock. We were able to alert the owner beforehand and also alert the vendor. The vendor was able to supply the stock before the normal time they bring it, and I didn't lose customers. It could be customer retention program. But you see, the kind of metrics that starts going to the building of these things, or the reason for building them is just beyond I want to make money. There's now a series of thought processes that has gone in before you deliver the solution, and you're able to talk about those thought processes, and that will even land you better because they're like, oh wow, oh, so you mean you saw a problem, you didn't just see code, you saw solution. And that is what they want to hire. They don't want to just hire people that write code. You can look, you can, if you look at a system, you break it down into the different parts. You can Google how to build these different parts and piece them together. That would work. But on the line, ultimately, is the implementation of it that you know, and you know how you brought the different bits together. Those are the things we need to focus on at some point. It goes beyond, again, I repeat, it goes beyond just writing code. What did you solve with your code? How are your employers or how are your clients using your code to solve their business problems?
All right, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
So for those interviewing at various levels, could you tell us about the interview process in the tech field, like how the interview is done, the stages, how many stages there are, and what recruiters are looking out for at each stage?
Again, it varies. So there is no one size fits all because tech industry is vast, is complicated. It is simple. If you want to work for like a Microsoft, for instance, now with my level, they might put you through data structures and algorithms, right? I interviewed with a company in the UK. It wasn't data structure and algorithms. It was simple questions they were asking. Again, I say simple. Maybe it might not be simple for someone else, right? So they are different. So the fund, the 4 Facebook Microsoft, Netflix, I said Netflix, AWS, and Google, most of them will do algorithm-based questions. I think even at any level, they will ask you fundamentals of algorithms, and you need to be able to solve problems with algorithms. How do you solve this problem? Some organizations will not go there because they don't encounter they have no reason to use algorithms. So the interview process will be different from if you want to interview for Microsoft, for instance. That's why I said it is diverse, it is different. You need to study the organization, study whatever job they put on. And when you're invited for an interview, please don't just take that invitation and go for an interview. Ask the recruiter, what are you expecting on this interview? A Nigerian company has invited me for an interview, it was a Zoom interview, and I joined the interview, and there were 6 people on the call. And I was like, I don't understand. He said I had an interview with the hiring manager. I joined the interview expecting to speak to one person, and here are 6 people bombarding me with questions. You get? So you can't, there was no way I could have said, and it's not even, it's Airtel. Let me even call it, it's Airtel. And like, I would have thought you guys would have been a bit more professional about this. Do you understand? But yeah, so you need to, again, research the industry. If you know people that have done the interviews before, ask them questions. If you don't know anybody, ask. Send the recruiter emails. And like I was explaining, the recruiters most times are not technical. They basically have a script to follow. Right? So if they don't see what they're looking for in the script in you, they might let you go. And you might actually be the best fit for that role. But because I don't know what you're looking for in your script. So again, if you're not sure, you are allowed to ask the recruiter, what exactly are you guys looking for? Let the recruiter tell you this and this and this and this are what we're looking for. Then you will tailor your applications or whatever you've done to match these skills. So that when you're having the interview, you're hitting the nail on the head. So I built this system that helped this. I built an inventory management system that helped the business grow from 0 to 10. Maybe they do inventory management. Oh, they'll probably start nodding. Okay, that's +1 in your favor. Oh, by the way, I set up a CI/CD pipeline. There was nothing, and because I wanted to negate the fact that they're copying code from the machines and dumping it on the server. I built a pipeline for them. Oh, we don't even have anything. This guy is sounding like a good fit for us already. Ask questions. I think that's what's all I would say.
Okay, thank you. So can one relocate out of Nigeria with this career path?
Yes, no. Tech is the new oil. Tech is the new oil. Even in Nigeria that we might be saying things that maybe not so technical. 5-10 years ago, where we are with tech is not where we were then. A lot more people are open to having a tech guy come into the organization and put processes in place or build out a software for them. So yes, you can relocate. But again, it's not just when you're doing tech automatically, that's a path to relocation. No, you need to gain certain skills you need to make yourself, as Bade was saying, internationally appealing to people. Again, those 5 key areas that I mentioned, if you can master those 5, you've automatically made yourself appealing to people. Certifications by default make you appealing to another niche market. Because you're not just saying you know it. I'm not just saying I know it. I'm not just telling you my experience. I'm saying this bigger organization, AWS, is saying Folari knows this thing. Again, like you said before, some organizations don't look at it, they don't care. You might have, you might not have it. As long as you can demonstrate, write code, let us see it working. That's how we know you know it. So I'm not taking what AWS said. That's how some organizations are. And some will take it. I won't leave Nigeria with 1 experience in tech and see the job. Yes, it's possible. So when I was doing VB.net and we're trying to migrate into C#, when I was doing my master's, because then I knew VB.net and PHP, and I was trying to land a job in the UK. I was already in the UK. I didn't find any VB.net jobs. All I was finding was C# jobs. And the reason I'm saying this is because when I landed a VB.net job, I started seeing VB.net jobs. Not that I wasn't looking, I was looking, but I don't know how fate does that to you. It's like, let's say you like a Prado Jeep, for instance. Because you like Prado Jeep, you step out there, it's almost like all the cars you see are Prado Jeeps. That's because you are more focused to seeing what you want to see, right? So you might, and I know people, that are built out that probably only know one language, JavaScript. There are businesses out there that only use HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and that's what they operate on. And then you tell them, and they see your level of expertise with JavaScript, they're like, oh, wow, amazing. Please come on board. So yeah, in as much as you get a lot of learn all these frameworks nowadays, right? It might not be, they might not even need that framework. Yes, we are happy you have it, but we don't do things that way. This is how we do things. So yeah, there is a possibility.
All right, thank you. Speaking of progress, where do you see yourself in, say, 5 to 10 years?
5 to 10 years, I'm not working for anybody anymore. I'm running a product and I'm trying to create a product roadmap for 5 to 10 years. You know, so it's not just because I've realized that in business at times people tend to create a product and they only have plans for 1 year. What happens after 1 year? Are you not planning to exist after 1 year? When you look at the likes of Apple, the Apple iPhones they are releasing today, they probably had a design 3, 4, 5 years ago. Continuity. So in the next year or two, actually, I want to be fully doing my own thing. I've set up another company. There's a path I have. I think Bad is about. There's a path I've created for myself. There's a place I see myself as. That's one of the reasons I took AWS certification. There's not just myself, my organization as well. I see a future for it, and I've started creating the path down now. I can't give details, sorry, but yes, I don't see myself in paid employment. I think that's a better way of putting it.
All right, thank you very much, sir. I have one last question. Let's say there is a company is looking to hire someone for a particular position, and there are two possible people that they're looking at. One has all the required tech skills, but no soft skills at all. Then the other one has top skills like communication, time planning, time management, and all that, but doesn't really have all the tech skills required. If you were the recruiter, who would you pick?
So I'll answer this by saying I've done the final interviews for people that came into Andela before, right? So I basically actually I didn't want to do technical interviews. Don't give me technical interviews. Soft skills, I love testing soft skills, right? And I did it for a number of years in Andela. I would prefer you have soft skills because you can teach technical. You might not be able to teach soft. Not that you cannot. For me, you hold a combination of technologies that work in my favor rather than the other person that doesn't have it at all. Right. So for me, I see you as an asset because you're not just doing your own work. You are saying you can also sit over other people's work. And that means I can free up my time to do other things. That's what I see when I see them. Again, like I said, it depends on the organization. You might not have the soft skills and the role you're being hired for, they don't even really want to interact with you. They just need maybe very few updates from you. Individual contributor. That's what that means. You can deliver. You might not talk so much, but you can deliver. Individual contributor. You know what? They'll pick you over the other guy because they don't need you to that relationship communication. They don't really need that. They're not keen on it. But for a business that is keen on communication, delivery, and all those things, obviously the other candidate that have soft skills will be more appealing to them.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Are there any more questions? Does anyone have any more questions to ask?
Yeah, one last question. As a student, we are learning coding and then we are schooling at the same time. What are how can I learn as a student, to be a full stack developer? Like what are the materials out there that I can use to learn? Because
no, go on.
Because if you are learning alone, you can watch this YouTube video today and then watch and done tomorrow, and then it won't align with what you are learning every day. It can just be scattered there and there.
So which is why I said at the beginning of this talk that it is advisable you pick a project you want to do. right? So let's say, like, again, I'm not against reading API documentation, for instance, right? But if I wanted to learn Python, I've actually done Python for like 3 months. If I wanted to learn Python, right? What project do I need to do in Python? Is it inventory management system I need to build? Again, break it down. So you're not learning and relearning, and then you get bored. Break this thing down into the 5 different parts I've said that we spoke about earlier on, the 5 components, right? If it's the API you want to pick first, then decide, okay, I want to do this API. Then learn things that will get you to build out those APIs. I don't believe you can learn everything at once. When you Google, you can learn things that will help you create the API. When you create an API, the next question is, this thing has to be secure because not everybody has to be able to call my API to get things done. Okay, securing the API in Python, you will get materials. And obviously, YouTube is actually a very good resource. And I think Bincom Academy is also a very good resource, right? I also do trainings, right? So there are a lot of resources out there, but it's not about the resources now. It's about how you are accessing these resources and your consistency in accessing these resources to build out something for yourself.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you for that question, and I hope you're satisfied, Paul.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so before we go, I have a presentation to make, so just give me a little time to do that.
All right.
Okay, I'll be sharing my screen now. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Wow. So, okay, like we all know, this event, the deep dive series, becoming a full stack software developer, is sponsored by Bincom Dev Center. Bincom Dev Center is a multi-location based training and development center for technology resources and technology solutions. So we are situated in a couple of locations. First of all, virtually near you, we have a location at Yaba, Lagos State. We have at Ibadan, Kano, Kaduna, Ijebu-Igbo at Ogun State. We have at Warri, Delta State, and we have plans to expand to various other locations. So to find out or to see a list of all our locations, you can visit blog.bincom.net/campuses. So we provide a couple of services, and some of them are, we have the Bincom Academy, we have the Bincom Tech Internship, we have the Bincom Tech Apprenticeship, the Bincom Community Events and Projects, we have the Light Space, we have the Bincom Global Tech Program, we have the Emigrate, we have the Bincom Mentoring Platform, we have Labs by Bincom. So let's drill down to some of these services. First of all, we have the Bincom Academy, which is an intensive training program facilitated by Bincom Dev Center. Each technology or application development class is typically 4 weeks of intensive training. During this period, we take the participants through our training curriculum for that knowledge track in a Montessori approach. So we have a couple of classes available. We have Python, mobile app, PHP, MySQL, Foundation, graphics, and lots more. To find out classes that are available and pricing, you can visit bincom.net/academy. We have the Lightspace. So the Lightspace provides helpful workspace intended to encourage collaboration and drive innovations in the startup ecosystem. So we have spaces that are created and designed for various events like seminars, conferences, and get together. And we have this Lightspace at our locations virtually near you, and the other locations that we have at Yaba, Oyo State, Kano, Kaduna, Ogun State, and Warri. So to find complete list of locations, you can visit bincom.net/campuses. Next, we have the Bincom community events and projects, which are geared at giving back to the community and building the tech ecosystem. So they focus on informing and exposing the youth to the current technology trends and how to prepare for the future in technology. So these community events are divided into 5. We have the masterclass, we have the meetups, idea sharing. This is an example of the idea sharing. We have the Bincom ICT career talk and the career drill downs. We have explore on the move. We have challenge and brainstorm. Some of our other initiatives include the Bincom Tech Network, which is a network that the Bincom Academy uses for collaboration purposes. So interaction with facilitators and other participants of the academy class would happen on a dedicated channel in Bincom Tech Network. We have the Bincom Tech Club, which creates an ecosystem that enables tech enthusiasts who have little or no knowledge on tech to learn and rub minds with tech experts, leveraging on the tech community to front-end the possibilities for individuals or club members to become tech experts at various levels. So for the meetups, we have the PHP meetup, cloud hosting, formerly known as Amazon Web Services meetup. We have the Angular meetup, digital marketing, data science, Laravel/E meetup, and we have the DevOps meetup. For the master classes, we have the Bincom Startup School, Social Lender Digital Financial Services Masterclass, and the Technology Enhanced Learning EdTech series. And for idea sharing series, we have the Bincom ICT Career Talk, and we have the Immigrate Open Day. The next service here is the Bincom Global Tech Program, which is a solution to launch your tech career globally. And it is focused on 3 key pillars, which are learn skills, gain experience, and gain exposure. We also have the Learn Tech Now and Pay Later, which during the Bincom during the program that would cover a period of 1 to 2 years and cost 1.2 million, you can learn for free and you start paying later instrumentally when you start earning via the income sharing agreement. So I would like to play a video now. The video would explain the Learn Tech Now, Pay Later service.
What are the things you need for this program? All you need is your laptop device, a hunger and a passion for IT. Those are the core tools that you need. The total cost of the Bincom Global Tech Program for the period of 1 to 2 years is just 1.2 million naira. But you don't need to worry about that because it gets better. We have various financing options to help you cover the cost of the program. So you don't need to have any money to even apply or be admitted to the program. One of the financing options that are available for this program is the income sharing agreement. What that simply means is that the company will sponsor your learning. So you would learn for the period of 1 to 2 years and you only start paying back when you get a job and you start earning your income after this program. This means that aside from skills, experience and exposure, the company is also willing to invest its own money on you. That's a total package. What are you waiting for? You need to go on our website, bincom.net/globaltech. You need to register and then launch your global tech career. I'm sure that the tech world, the tech industry is waiting for a great talent like you. Thank you.
Okay, we have the Emigrates, which is pronounced Emigrates, which provides tech-enabled visa opportunities for people in tech, either the technical side or the business side of tech. So it gives opportunities to live and work in countries like the UK, USA, Canada, and France. So these are some of the Emigrate services. You have the free and you have the premium. So if you're interested, the first step you need to take is indicate interest at bincom.net/immigrate. Then the second step you need to do is request for immigrate services at bincom.net/immigrate pricing. We have the Immigrate Open Day as well, and we're all invited to join the next Immigrate Open Day. It typically holds 2 Wednesdays in a month. Video recordings of past editions are also available. We have the Labs by Bincom, which is a platform that enables techies to apply skills that they've learned and also add to their portfolio. So to find out, you can visit bincom.net/labs to join the next cohorts of the labs by Bincom. We have the ambassador program. So the Bincom Dev Center Ambassador Campaign is a partnership with My Circle, bringing the ability for people to earn from the network and positive social influence. You earn 10% from Bincom Dev Center for any of its services which you refer. Let's say, for example, you refer someone to the Global Tech Program, earn 10% of whatever payment that person makes. Let's say the person pays up to 2 million naira, automatically you earn 120,000 naira, which is 10% of the amount the person paid. So you can reach us at bincomdevcenter@bincom.net. You can send us an email at bincomdevcenter@bincom.net. You can call the number that is displayed on your screen, or you visit our site at www.bincomdevcenter.com. All right, I've come to the end of this presentation. Are there any questions or feedbacks? All right, if none, our speaker has left us, is no longer here with us, but I would like to appreciate him in absentia for being with us, taking out the time to really talk to us and explain some things about becoming a full stack developer. I believe those of us here who are developers have learned a lot of things from his presentation and from the things he told us. And I appreciate everyone for taking out the time and having patience to be with us from the beginning to the end of this program. And at this point, I will bring the session to an end. And I bid you all a good evening, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.